Hello, welcome back to the Beauty Biz Mentor podcast. I am Stacey Lynn and I am your host, and this is episode 2, how to create space where everybody wants to work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I do have a lot of people that are constantly asking me, how did you have such great retention, Stacey? Why did you do annual awards? Why do you give so much to your staff? Like, aren't you afraid they're going to leave you? What if they want to start another salon? Whatever it always was, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Why? So this is what we're going to talk about today, is how to create that space so people don't ever want to leave you. I am like a huge abundance mindset. I never ran, and I still do not run out of fear leadership, because if you are leading in fear, then people are always going to want to leave you, or they're not going to want to stay with you. But if you work in that abundance mindset, then they're never going to go anywhere. Like, they're going to always be around. So one of the things that everybody used to ask me, like I was saying, is why do you give so much? Why do you always do this for your staff? Why are you teaching them so much? And that, to me, was something that was super important to me. I was always giving back, and I was always doing all the extra. And so 5 things that I'm going to teach you guys today. And to remind you, this is our podcast recording, so I will try not to go over the 30 minutes that I always promised you. But I do have 5 things I want to touch base with you guys today. So let's just jump right into it. And then as I talk about each thing, there's always going to be something. I'll have a story. I don't know. There's always something that I can add to, because as we do these podcasts, of course, I want you guys to get to know me more. And we will dig deeper and deeper each time into why I started doing hair, all the things. But today, let's just get right to business, okay? So I'm going to teach you 5 things that for me are important when it comes to creating a space that everybody wants to work. So number 1 for me is going to be being approachable. So as an owner of the brand that I created, which is 20 Volume Salon and Spa, this is a trademarked brand, and this was a brand that I felt very important, that as the owner, I wanted to be approachable. I wanted people to know. Have you ever worked in a job where you're like, oh my God, here comes the boss. Oh my God. What's the Devil Wears Prada, where he comes in and he's like, gird your loins. Like, I was never that person. I never wanted to be that person. I always wanted to be somebody that was accessible and approachable, because if you are a boss, so it didn't have to just be me. It could also be my manager. Lots of words for a second. My manager, she needed to be, or he needed to be, whoever it was, they need to be accessible and approachable, because if you are the type of person that is not approachable, then you're going to have turnover constantly, because if people can't come to you and talk to you about situations, then you're never going to have a retention in your staff. So that's the biggest thing, is be approachable and be accessible. Okay. But that doesn't mean I need you to be their friend. Don't be their friend. Okay. There's a fine line between separating business and friendships. I had a few people in my business that I was also friends with outside of my salon doors. However, I knew how to take my staff and have that conversation with them as a staff. And then when we left the building, we were friends. And there's a very fine line there. So making sure that you are not friends with your staff, but you also are not, excuse me, but you also want to make sure that you are their boss, but you're also accessible and approachable to them. That doesn't mean you have to be their friend outside of those doors, okay? The other thing too, number 2 for you guys, is to listen. Listen to them. Have one-on-one. We had one-on-one quarterly. I don't like to use the word evaluation, because that's not really what it was, but it was a one-on-one connection. That's what we like to do, because I wanted to listen to them. And I would never listen to respond. Okay. That is one thing that you cannot do as a really good manager and having people that want to work with you, is that you want to listen. Take in the information, and then you're going to say, those are great ideas. Because a lot of time, or there might not be great ideas, but it's definitely something that you can say, I hear what you're saying, and I'd love to get back to you on this, or I will get back to you on this. And it may or may not be something that you might want to implement. It may or may not be something that you're like, where the hell did this come from? And that's okay. But I need you to listen to listen. Don't just listen to respond to them. Because if you're the type of person that when somebody comes to you to start talking and you're already thinking of a response in your mind, then you're not approachable and you're not listening. That's what that means. You have to listen to listen. Don't just listen to respond. The next one is you want to have education available, and a lot of it. Okay. And this is one of the things where people would always come to me and they'd say, I need a drink. This is why I keep coughing. Hold on a second. Okay. Now we're going to be better. People would come to me and say, Stacey, you give so much education. Like you pay for so much. Well, yes, I did. And I felt it was very important for my team to stay educated. One, because I wanted them to always be up to date. So you always need to have that available for them. Does it mean that you need to pay for everything? No, absolutely not. You don't have to pay for everything. But being in the position as a business owner, if you can pay for the education for them up front and then split it up over payments, like taking it out of their paycheck, then that is going to be more attractable to people, especially stylists that may not set aside a budget for education. They might not know that education is available. They might not want to take the time away from their kids or whatever it might be because they don't want to spend the money on it. But if you have that readily available, like you as an owner have that education set aside. So for me, in my salons, we always had an education budget. So I would give back, depending on the amount of years that they were with me, they would get an education budget that they could spend every year up to $500. So if they had been with me for 1 year, then they would get 200 and I would pay 50%, they would pay 50%. Up to $500. If they'd been with me for 2 years, I would pay 75%. And the longer they were with me, the more the education I would pay for them. And so having that available and helping them pay for it makes you more attractable as well. So one is be approachable, two is listen and listen to listen, not to respond, and three is education. Number four, I think is really important to have a space that everybody is attracted to is team events. Show your team that they are valuable. I would do random lunch. I would do random send donuts to the salon. I would have a team event every single year. We had team awards every single year. It was the annual banquet. It was always themed. It was so much fun. And people really looked forward to it. And people felt valued when they are recognized for their work. So we had 100,000 stylist club. Once you hit that 100,000 style, like that $100,000 worth of revenue in 1 year, you're recognized for it. Okay. You're recognized. You are given an award for it. You go up on the wall for it. Like all these little things that make them feel more valuable is what's going to attract them to you and makes you be very, very attractable in the beauty industry as a place that people want to work. Like people don't want to go to work where there is drama, where there is no education, where there is people constantly talking about other people, where there's no team morality. Like those are all things that people are not going to want to stick around for. So when you have all of these other things available, education, and you're listening and you have team events, people are going to be attracted to you and they're going to want to stay there. Okay. One of the other things with that is like making them feel valuable and knowing each person's personality. So if you know what their personality is, then you know how to approach them when you talk to them. So when you go back and you're listening and you're having those quarterly connections, you know how to approach them. You know how they're going to deal with change. You know all of these things about them because you know their personality because you've listened. So all of my employees would take a personality test. I always wanted to know what their personality was, so I would know how to talk to them. And another thing that I would always teach people, and I want you to understand, is it's not what you're saying to people 99% of the time. It's how you're saying it. So I could say the exact same thing that somebody else says to you. So maybe my manager says it to you, or maybe another stylist says it to you. I could say the exact same words, but it's how I'm saying it to you versus what I'm saying, and it's how you take it. So knowing people's personalities and how you can talk to them, that is huge in making them feel valuable as well. And the last thing too about having a place that people want to work is comparable pay, making sure that you are there. Number one, so this can be a whole total, like a whole separate episode here, is making sure that you are paying what they're worth. Okay. And don't just make it a 50-50. Don't just make it a 70-30. Don't like have a sliding scale. They come in at this level, and then as they hit certain benchmarks and as they hit certain tiers and education levels and different things, you are constantly raising them in increments. And this is a whole different episode we will go into, but this is what makes you a place that people want to work, is that they can see there's room for growth. If they just come in and they're like, it's 50-50, you're out the door, like that's not inspiring to somebody. That's not like, oh yeah, I have a lot of room to grow here. I have a lot of room. I have some money I can make here. No, that's not what that means. That just means that you don't care if they succeed. Here's your pay and that's it. And that's one of the things that people want to know when they're looking at, and what will attract people to you and be that space where people want to work, is that they want to know that there's room for growth. Because if they outgrow you, then what happens? They move on, right? They open their own salon, which I personally have had several people leave me to open their own salons. And you know what? I am 100% okay with that, because you know what that means I did? That means I did my job. I did my job of mentoring them and coaching them to be a better version of themselves, to be a better hairstylist, which then in turn means that they can go do their own thing. So that was probably the biggest thing that people, for me, in the beauty industry, most people did not agree with the way I operated my salons. Okay. They didn't agree with the fact that I worked in an abundance mindset. In the beauty industry, it's not normal. It's literally not normal for you to be okay with somebody leaving you to go open their own salon. What is normal, and those of you that are following me, you know this, that owners want to own the clientele. They don't want if somebody leaves, they don't tell you where they went. And that is not how I operated. So when I operated in an abundance mindset in running my salons, my retention, my staff retention was usually in between 70-75%. And that's because I did not lead out of fear. I led out of abundance. And to lead out of abundance, it makes you so attractive that people never want to leave you. Because when you show them, I would break down my P&Ls and show them exactly how much am I paying in rent? How much does it cost to run the water? How much is the electricity? How much does it cost to pay taxes on all these employees I have here? And when you're constantly showing that information and you're in that abundance mindset set of sharing with them, most of the time, there are a few of them. There's a few people that want to leave and still do their own because they think they can do it better. And that is okay. Like, you absolutely want them to do that. But what most of them see is you and your abundance and your giving and your education, that they don't want to leave you. They want to stay with you. So that is how I always operated, owning all of my salons, which is why I was so successful, is because I attracted people to me constantly. When we had an education program, there was so much that went on within 20 Volume Salon that having people leave me, I was constantly bringing new people in. So it never really affected me. But you want to make sure that you really get to know your staff. Okay. That is like so important to know and be approachable, be accessible, make them feel valuable. And one thing too, that you really want to remember is we're not their mom. As the owner, as the manager, but sometimes they do need a little motherly, because we can be like, we all know as stylists, we are the therapist for our clients. Most of the time they sit down, we know everything. We grieve with them when they lose a husband, when they lose a mom or a dad. We celebrate with them when they have babies. We celebrate when they're getting married, kids are getting married. Like, we're usually the first one as a stylist behind the chair or a beauty industry provider. We're one of the first ones to actually know these things about our clients in our chair. And sometimes our staff needs to just have that little bit of motherly love. And this is where knowing their personalities is going to come into effect. So those are my 5 things I have for you guys. I hope that you found value in today's podcast. If you did, please share this out. I probably need to go into each one and break them down a little more, and maybe we can do that in a future podcast. But the 5 things to remember to create a space where everybody wants to work is be an approachable and an accessible boss. Okay. Whether you're the owner or you're the manager, just be approachable. Don't be the lady wears Prada. Okay. Be approachable, be accessible, and listen to them. Don't listen to respond. Don't have a response for them before they're even done talking. Okay. Listen to listen. Have one-on-one quarterly connections. You can do it monthly, whatever fits you, but have that available so that they know that they have a space that they can talk to you freely. And in that space, they need to know, like, whatever you say today is not going to hurt you. If you have issues, don't be afraid of confrontation. If you have something you need to bring to me with another stylist, issues, whatever it might be, like, this is the time where you can, like, bring it all out. Okay. We need to get to the bottom of it. Number 3, you guys, was having education available and being able to help pay for it if they need that help. Okay. Break it up through their paychecks or have an education budget. That's another whole episode that we can go into. Team events, always showing how valuable they are, like making sure that you are recognizing them for the small things. Literally every single month, we would recognize people that hit their benchmarks. If you hit your retention and your new client retention and your sales, like your retail goals, like if you hit all of those, you got recognized for it. Okay. Making sure that they know that they're valuable, and then having huge events, team bonding, things like that makes you valuable as well. And then also having a comparable pay that raises with them over time as they grow as a stylist. Don't bring somebody in and just say we're 50-50 or we're 70-30. Like, have them have the opportunity to grow. Now, if you have booth renters or you have contract stylists, things like that, I know you're going to say, Stacey, I can't do all of this because I can't tell them what to do. One of the things that you can do if you do have contract stylists or you have booth renters is when you have them sign a contract, if you do have them sign contracts, I'm not a contract person. I never had anybody in any of my salons sign contracts to work for me, because if you don't want to work for me, I don't want you to work for me. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to have a space where somebody's like, oh, I have to go to work again today. I can't leave because I have a contract, blah, blah, blah. I was never that person, which again, people did not agree with. They're like, Stacey, you need to get contracts. No, I don't want somebody to work for me that doesn't want to work for me. So if you are a person that has contract workers and you do contracts, then all you need to do is put it in your contract. Okay. You will have this education budget. You will have this. If you have this retention, you will have this. Like, just make sure that they know what the expectations are when they're coming in. So then when it comes down to it, if they're not following the things, then you have something to come back on. Let's see. That's it, you guys. So those were my 5 things for you. I hope that you found value in today's podcast. Please share me out. If you did find value in this, share it out to your friends, and let's help grow the Beauty Biz Mentor to the #1 beauty podcast in the industry. And make sure, and you can help with that by sharing, liking, writing me a 5-star review down below. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. And as always, I'm going to leave you like I leave you. I'm going to leave you on every single podcast. Go out and be somebody's day maker today. Bye, you guys.